Hey everybody, it's Kyle Jetzel, the Driven Autism Dad. Today I decided to invite Tory Hebden on with me. Tory went through my one-on-one coaching with me for a while there. And we met because I announced that I was the Driven Autism Dad. And Tory, I guess, connected with that a little bit.
Yeah, it did definitely resonated.
That's kind of how we came to meet each other. And shortly after, Tory was inside I call it the inner circle of one-on-one coaching. So Tory, um, maybe introduce yourself real quick and talk about your family and maybe why you call yourself the Driven Autism Dad. Two.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Kyle. So I've got four kids, excuse me, and my second son, he's on the spectrum there, and he was diagnosed early on when he was a toddler because we noticed that there were some developmental challenges. Fortunately, we had a gal that we went to church with that she could see some things, and initially when she had mentioned it to us, we were pretty um, defensive about it, only to realize that she was spot on. But we were pretty unwilling to accept that at first because all the fear that was going to come with it. And I know that a lot of you on the call that when you get that diagnosis or you begin to understand some of the implications in their future, we became very, very fearful, and we went to some dark places at times, only to realize that, hey, they're going to be able to reach their full potential, whatever that may be, and it's ours as a parent to be able to maximize that. But that was a journey. I didn't have that understanding, because our son that's on the spectrum, he's now 17. He's a senior at Centennial High School, but it's had its challenges, it's had its moments, but it's also had some incredible opportunities for us to grow as mom and a dad, and as a family too, what that means. And so my sons and my daughter are better off because of it, because they're a lot more understanding human beings just in general, because people can be pretty judgmental and pretty pushy at times on how they see the world, and the box in which everybody should fit in. And our kids on the spectrum, they just don't fit in any box, right?
Right,
They're just
right.
different. But it's been pretty awesome. But I saw your post, Kyle, uh, and I think it was last fall sometime, and you said, "Hey, you're looking for dads that are driven and dads with kids on the spectrum." I'm like, "Hey, pick me, pick me. I, I want to be the best dad that I can be, for my son, and for all of my kids, but especially for my son that's on the spectrum there, to make sure that he can maximize that." But
So tell me
yeah,
what initially we started working together, and I saw when we started working one-on-one together, I saw a lot of big grins on your face, right? I mean, there was some times where we would talk about strategies and very specific tactics. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you what was it like working one-on-one. We'd meet every week and we'd talk about some specific strategies or develop strategies, and then you'd go to work and then report back. So I'm kind of curious what you thought about that whole process.
as I think back on some of those times there's a number of reasons I think for the grins. Was number one is, well, you know what you're talking about because you've been down this trail before, right? And it's so, yep, I'm nodding in agreement because I've been through that at times, only to find out, oh my gosh, that if I would have had just this little bit of information, how much more how much differently I could have handled the situation. So I'm like, it's kind of this introspection of, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible dad.
Oh, no, no.
If only I knew. But it's just the timeliness of the information as it came. So that's the second piece of, what I was going through at that time. It just seemed so timely. I got really excited because I'm going through this right now, and this is going to totally set me up for success. And then I imagined myself, a week later, being able to report back to you and say, "Hey, I did it. Yes, I did it. I'm so excited." I was able to work through that challenge, and you know, put a check mark in the box of, I've succeeded as a dad in that moment of time.
It's interesting. I work with a lot of parents, obviously, and one of the things I constantly hear back is it's a lot less, it takes a lot less energy once you have a strategy and tactics and can do these things in a spirit of love, right? I mean,
Yeah,
too many parents are exhausted and overwhelmed because they're just fighting this battle and they don't really know uh how to it's a fight, right? And when you're and they feel like that, right? It's exhausting. And then when you apply and create strategies that you can follow steps, and always the first one is do it in a spirit of love, right? That's always the first step in every strategy. They come back to me and they say, I'm not exhausted. I feel like I did great, right? And instead of fighting, I handle it in a spirit of
yeah,
love, right? And follow these steps. And they get better results for their kids. They feel better as parents. Like you said, you feel initially you go into it and you say, shoot, if I'd have known this, right? If I would have just known this, you know, but now you do, right? And I guess that's kind of the
yeah,
point. Now you do, and you can apply those things and you come away less exhausted, more excited, right?
yep,
And have a
yeah.
plan now moving forward. So one last question. I don't want to be on here too long because nobody will watch for too long anymore, right? People have a limited
Attention
time
span
frame
there,
to
yeah.
watch any video. And I want to know from you what the most impactful thing you learned from working one-on-one with me was. And and I'm just curious if there's some one thing, or maybe it's more than one, that just kind of jumps out at you.
Well, Kyle, you talk about these frameworks or, these strategies, and sometimes I just get in my own way just mentally of how in the heck am I going to handle this situation? Because it's in the moment. And in that moment, you just it's hard to deal with it because you're emotionally charged, they're emotionally charged. And how do I mean, it's going to be a fight that ensues in some way, shape, or form. And maybe not like a physical fight, but it's just this sometimes it's just internal, of how am I going to be able to succeed in this moment there. And so those frameworks or those methodology strategies, whatever you call them, they're just super powerful. But you've been able to create it in a more visual. I'm a visual guy, right? And so something like this what am I thinking in that moment? And this is handy because it's a reinforcement of, hey, what can I do? Or I'm going to stop. what am I thinking in this moment? So that was, you've got so many frameworks and strategies that pretty much, any kind of situation that I've come upon, even just the other night, my wife, and it's not just for our kids of being successful, driven autism dads, it's being successful for our spouses. One of those frameworks that you teach there is the hop up and hustle. Right. And I love it, but I hate it at the same time because I know what it's gonna I know what it's gonna bring. I know what the outcome's gonna bring, and it's gonna be a much better outcome. In that moment, I don't necessarily want to do it, but I can hear Kyle in the back of my head, come on, man, hop up and hustle, right? And so, my wife at certain time, she'll crawl into bed, get all comfy. Hey, honey, will you? Right? And it's almost expected in some way. But I'm gonna be. I gotta be a dad. I gotta be a husband. I gotta be the best person that I can be. So, and so I'm gonna hop up and hustle and do that. And our relationship is better because of it.
Oh, that's
My
fantastic.
relationship with my kids is better because of it. So, um, pretty powerful
That's
stuff.
that is what I want, Tori. You just described it in a nutshell. I my goal is to help families repair their relationships, right? Not just with their kids on the spectrum, and frankly, a lot of parents, a lot of moms with themselves, right?
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do, or they're struggling, or they're barely surviving, and they're exhausted. And my goal is to give them strategies and techniques and tactics that they can apply, feel like the greatest parent in the world, right? It takes work. Feel like just the greatest mom or the greatest dad they can be, and feel like they're doing what's best for their kids on the spectrum and for their other relationships, right? And repairing those things. And you said it perfectly, Tori. So hey, again, I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. But any of you guys that are interested in working with me one-on-one, Tory, raise your hand if you think that's a great idea. Tory's,
That's a
yeah, the two hands. Okay.
too bad. It's awesome. Yeah, it's beyond great.
Oh, beyond great. I
Well,
like
yep,
yeah, just PM me or get in touch with me. You guys know how to do it. And I'd love to chat with you about doing some one-on-one work with you. And thanks so much, Tori. I appreciate your time. And, we're friends, so we talk all the time. So I'll chat with you again
yep,
soon, Tori. Hey, thanks a
yep.
lot, buddy.
Thank you, Kyle.
All righty.
Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.